If you want to drive from Britain to France, then likely your cheapest option is going to be getting a car ferry from Dover to Calais. It takes about an hour and a half. In this video, I'm going to tell you what to expect so that you're prepared and how much it's likely to cost. It usually costs me between £100 and £150 to do a return crossing in the car. And it doesn't matter if you have one person in the car or if you have a full car. The price is the same. This car takes 5 people. So if I have a full car, it's actually a very cost-effective way of doing a return trip across the channel per person. If you're driving a different vehicle though, like a van, a minibus, a camper van, or you're towing a trailer or have a caravan, then the price can be significantly more. I've never done it myself, but I've done some quotes just out of interest, and depending on the size of the vehicle, the price has been up to 3 times that of an ordinary car. If you take a motorbike or a bicycle, you do save money. Motorbikes are typically about half the price of a car, and a bicycle a little bit less than that of a motorbike. With a motorbike though, you can take up to 2 people, but with a bicycle, you can only take 1 person. Bear in mind though, prices do vary throughout the year. During the peak seasons, it costs more. The most I've paid for a return trip in a car has been just under £200. That was in August 2024. There are other ways you can get from Britain to France via a car ferry for a similar price as Dover to Calais. The first one is Dover to Dunkirk. This is a 2-hour crossing, so half an hour longer than Dover to Calais, but it gets you closer to Belgium. So if you want to go to Belgium, this can actually be a good option. It's usually priced at about the same as Dover to Calais. Then there's Newhaven to Dieppe. This is a 4-hour crossing and it gets you 2 hours to the west of Calais. So depending on where you're coming from in Britain and where you want to go to in France, this can actually be a good option for time, because the extra time you spend on the ferry you may save on the road. It can be priced at about the same as Dover to Calais, but that will be at an unsociable hour. Usually this crossing during the day is going to cost a lot more than Dover to Calais. And there's not that many crossings a day. And as the crossings are priced differently, if you miss your ferry, you can't simply just get on the next one. Firstly, you're going to be waiting a long time, and secondly, you're going to have to call the ferry operator. You can also get a car ferry to France from Portsmouth, Poole and Plymouth. These routes are usually a lot longer and far more expensive. However, if you're coming from the west, you may want to check out Poole to Cherbourg. Although this is a 4.5-hour crossing, generally it costs about the same as Dover to Calais. Today I got a price of £140 for a return journey, although usually it does look like the price is closer to £190 for that journey. But depending on where you're going to, within France or the rest of Europe, this may actually be your cheaper and faster option. Something you should bear in mind about these longer crossings though is the English Channel isn't always smooth sailing. Sometimes it gets choppy, and when it does, people get sick. And if you suffer from seasickness, well, you may want to choose the shorter crossing over the longer crossing. I suffer from seasickness myself, which is why I much prefer Dover to Calais, because if it does get choppy, I'm feeling sick for an hour and a half. I wouldn't want to be feeling sick for like 4 hours, or on the really long crossings like 12 hours. If you just want to get your car across the channel to France as quickly as possible, then don't get on a ferry. Use the Channel Tunnel, also known as the Channel. It's a train you drive onto in Folkestone. It goes under the sea and arrives in Calais. Takes just over half an hour, drive on, drive off, nice and quick, brilliant. Until they tell you the price. Usually it's about double that of a ferry between Dover and Calais. The prices do vary, but it is usually a lot more expensive. The last time I used the Channel Tunnel was in August 2023 and I paid just under £400. And they offer something called Flexi Plus. Now, this is great because you can turn up at any time during the day that you have booked and get on the next train. Sounds great until they tell you the price. The last time I had a quote to add Flexi Plus to my ticket, it was more than the ticket. It cost more than the ticket. You do get a nice departure lounge, but I thought I'd best just turn up on time. Something to bear in mind is that your departure time is not the time you should aim to arrive at the port. Admittedly, I used to make this mistake. So with the Channel Tunnel and the Dover to Calais crossing, you need to be there at least 1 hour before your departure time. So the Channel Tunnel isn't a 35-minute crossing. It's at least 1 hour and 35 minutes when you consider all the time you need to be waiting around. And the ferry crossing between Dover and Calais is at least 2.5 hours. I'll tell you what I do. Now, I don't recommend this, but this is what I do. I aim for 30 minutes before the departure time. And usually I'm fine. Occasionally I do miss a ferry. But for me, in my head, for all the time that I save arriving 30 minutes before departure time, that's worth the occasional missed ferry. Especially as sometimes there's huge queues, and even if you get there an hour before or even more than an hour before, you miss your ferry anyway. Or the ferries are delayed and you get there really early and you're waiting absolutely ages. Sometimes I'm going towards the ferry thinking, oh, I might miss this one, I'm going to be a bit late, and it's delayed and I get it anyway. I'm like, win. So for me, going for 30 minutes before makes me feel better. With the ferry, the cheapest ticket you can buy from Dover to Calais and back, you get 4 hours of flexibility. So if you're 4 hours early, you can get an earlier crossing. If you're 4 hours or up to 4 hours late, you can get a later crossing. With the Channel Tunnel though, be careful. Their cheapest ticket they offer, their day ticket, that gives you no flexibility. If you check in less than an hour before your departure time, your ticket is void. Not just your outbound ticket, your return ticket is void, both ways. You have to buy a new return ticket. There are different levels of flexibility for the Channel Tunnel, depending on how much money you spend on your ticket, but make sure you know the terms of your ticket and make sure you're on time if you don't have any flexibility. I must reiterate though that arriving 30 minutes before departure time is not recommended. It's not what I recommend. Although you can get the next boat if you miss it, that isn't actually a guarantee. That is subject to availability. So if there's no spaces on the boat for you, well, you're not getting on that boat. The cheapest place I've been able to find tickets is from Direct Ferries. They're not sponsoring this channel. I'm only recommending them because I have found them to be cheaper. The last time I went to book a trip, I got a price from Direct Ferries. Then I went to the operator's website, which on this occasion was Irish Ferries, to get a price from them. And for the exact same trip with the same operator, Irish Ferries, well, the Irish Ferries website wanted double the price, almost double the price, not quite, than what Direct Ferries wanted. So I don't know how, but Direct Ferries do seem to be able to get cheaper tickets. You can also use Tesco Club Card vouchers for both the Dover the Calais crossing and the Channel Tunnel. You may be able to use other supermarket vouchers. I don't know, I've only ever used Tesco vouchers. But last time I went to use the vouchers, I decided not to. Because to use the vouchers, you can't book through Direct Ferries. You have to go through a different avenue. And when I went through that avenue to use the vouchers, the price of the trip was nearly double that of what I could get it for through Direct Ferries. And on that occasion I decided I would use my money to book through Direct Ferries, and actually I'd get a better deal if I used the vouchers from Tesco for something else. On that occasion it worked out the best use of the money and the vouchers. When you're driving through the ferry port in Dover, you have to go through 2 lots of security, but in Calais you have to go through 3 lots of security. What I mean by security, it's a barrier that comes down, you drive up to the barrier, give someone your passport, they look at you, look at the passport and decide if you're allowed to make the trip. But once you've gone through security, there are people at the side of the road who may pull you over to look in your car. I'm not sure how they decide who to pull over and who not to pull over, but quite often I get pulled over. And on my last trip, I got pulled over in Calais on the way back. They basically look in the boot, they look in the back, do their checks, doesn't take too long, takes about 20-30 seconds, and then they let me get on my way. But in Dover, they went to pull me over again. She saw me coming, she waved at me, started to slow down, and then she heard this. And before I had a chance to stop, she just waved me to carry on. Having a baby certainly has its advantages, especially when I'm pushing the pram. Everyone just seems to get out of the way, although it also has its disadvantages. stairs. Luckily on the ferries they have lifts, although getting your pram or whatever it is you have to the lift can be difficult because they do pack the cars in up there. On the last 2 trips we did, we were able to get the pram through the cars and to the lift, but I should imagine sometimes you'd have to fold down the pram and carry it to the lift and do it that way. But yeah, you don't have to carry it up loads of stairs, which is nice. Driving onto and off of the ferry is easy. You don't have to turn around. You go in one end, do the crossing, and you come out the other end. Sometimes you may have to go to the upper level, which means you're going to have to go up quite a steep hill, but it's still not that difficult. When it comes to leaving the ferry, they do tell you not to turn the engine on until you get going, but lots of people do. So you have a partially enclosed area with many different vehicles, some big trucks included, with their engines idling with cold emission systems that aren't really working. So the air quality in that partially enclosed area where you're parked goes downhill very quickly and you can feel it. So what I do is I get in the car, close the doors, ignition on, air conditioning on recirc. I think the reason why people put their engines on is because they want to switch their car from miles per hour to kilometers per hour and set up their sat nav, etc. I do that as well, but I don't turn the engine on. I just put the ignition on because that's all that is needed for you to be able to change those settings. And what I mean by emission systems, it's the systems that vehicles have to make the exhaust gases far less harmful to human health. The problem with these systems is that they don't really work very well until they are hot, several hundred degrees hot. So when you initially turn your engine on and you have a relatively cold exhaust system, they're not really doing their job, and the gases coming out of your exhaust are far more harmful to human health. If you get driving, well, the system gets up the temperature quickly and they start working quickly, but if you sit there idling, it can take a lot longer for the systems to start working effectively. So you're in a partially enclosed area for maybe 10 or 15 minutes whilst you're waiting to leave, with multiple vehicles, including big trucks, idling with their engines running with cold emission systems that may not be doing their job properly. My advice is avoid breathing that stuff in if you can. If you get unlucky with parking, you end up outside. This has happened to me on a couple of occasions now. The reason why I say unlucky is because although you can't see salt water going onto the car, salt water is going onto the car. If it's raining, it's not such a problem because the rain washes it away, you don't really notice. But if it's not raining, when you go to your car, it's covered in a layer of salt where the salt water has been flicked onto the car and then the water has evaporated but left the salt behind. When that happens, it can be quite difficult to see out your windows. The Dover to Calais crossing is operated by Irish Ferries, P&O and DFDS. The oldest ship on that fleet is the Isle of Inishmore with Irish Ferries. It's a 1997 boat, which means it's 28 years old. And although it's old, it's still all right. It's smooth, doesn't smell bad, it's comfortable, the seats are comfortable and the toilets are kept clean. So I have no problems in getting the older boat, although the outdoor areas on the older boat aren't so good as some of the newer boats. Also, there is a place for your pets if you are taking your dog or a pet with you where you can sit. I'm not so happy with the food though. If it was £10 a dish for a main, I would accept the quality, but as it's closer to £18 a dish, I don't think the quality meets the price, so I do prefer to bring my own food. And all the ferries that I've used so far have a duty-free shop, and the perfume that my partner uses in that shop is cheaper than I can find on the internet or the high street. When it comes to driving in France, I've already made a video all about it. I'll leave a link to it up there. But remember, you're on this side of the car if you're coming from the UK. So if you go to a car park, the ticket machine's on that side, so you're not going to be able to reach it unless you have a passenger. But don't worry, they give you time to get out, walk around the car and take the ticket. I've not had a problem yet. Same with the toll roads, or péage as they call them. You have time to get out the car, go around, take your ticket or pay for your ticket and then get back into the car if you don't have a passenger to do it for you. Don't feel rushed, don't be tripping over yourself because you're worried about the barrier coming down. I've not had the barrier come down before I've got going yet. You can get something known as an Emovis tag, which you stick on your window, which pays for the tolls as you drive through them. But you do have to pay a yearly subscription, a monthly subscription, although you only pay for 2 months of the year, and you do have to put a deposit for that as well. It's something I can't be bothered with. It's another thing to pay for, and it's another thing to stick in the window. I don't use tolls very often, so I just get out and pay, or get the passenger to pay. It's not such a big problem. To give you an idea, it costs approximately 30 euros to get to Paris via the toll roads and 30 euros back, so it's a 60 euro round trip, and it saves you about an hour each way. If you want to go to the south of France, you're looking at around about 130 euros one way. I've done that a few times. That's quite expensive, and that's why the roads flow so freely in France. One of the reasons why, anyway. The roads are expensive. People say, oh, the roads flow freely in France because they don't hog the middle lane. Well, people don't hog the middle lane because there's no reason to hog the middle lane. It's very free flowing. And I think because it's expensive, less people use those toll roads. When you get into Paris and start driving around the outskirts of Paris, things change. It gets really busy. You do get people hogging lanes, and you get motorbikes weaving in and out of cars, and some fairly poor driving as well. And if you really want to have some fun, go round the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. Make sure you know which exit number you need and count as you go round, because there are many exits, and if you're not counting each time you pass an exit, you're probably going to get the wrong exit. Give way to cars that are entering the roundabout, and keep your eye on the mirrors as you move to the right to leave the roundabout. So are there actually any advantages to driving over flying? Well, if you want to go far away, probably not. But if you want to go somewhere more local and you don't have much time, it can actually be a good use of your time, even though driving takes longer than flying. You may use less of your time, or should I say, you would use your time more wisely. Here's an example. Let's say me and my partner want to spend the weekend in Paris, and she doesn't want to use any holiday. Maybe she's run out of holiday from work, or she's saving it for something else. Well, we can go to Paris after work. We can leave when she finishes work and be there that night, because there's plenty of ferries, plenty of trains under the sea. We go when we want. The trains and the ferries fit around us. We don't fit around them. And we come back when we want as well. Whereas if we're looking to fly, we'll look at the schedules and we're like, oh, that one's all right. Oh, we won't quite make that after work. Won't get to the airport early enough. Oh, this one's good, but that's really expensive. Oh, what about this one? This one's cheap. Well, you're going on a Saturday midday and coming back a Sunday midday. There's no point going. So although it takes longer driving, because we're leaving at the earliest we can leave, we make better use of our time. We're coming back exactly when we want to come back as well. Also, another advantage is this thing that I'm sitting in, a car. It's quite a lot of space, much more space than a suitcase. So you have lots of space to take your stuff. And now we have a baby, we have our car seat with us, we have our pram with us, all the stuff she needs. We can stop when we like. There's a relatively private place for my partner to feed our baby when she needs feeding. So it's a less stressful trip. But also, if you want to go on a slightly longer trip, driving can be advantageous as well. If you want to do a trip around Europe and see multiple places, well, what a better way to do it than be in your car, drive to these places, make a nice trip of it and come back. We've done a few of those. We've gone to Croatia, we've been to Amalfi, we've been to Spain a couple of times, and we've seen quite a lot of Europe from doing that. A couple of days here, a day there. It's quite fun planning it as well. But if you want to go somewhere far away, stay there and then come back, my advice is to fly. Well, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're looking for car insurance, check out the links to Collingwood and Confused in the description. If you're learning to drive and want to insure yourself on somebody else's car, then Collingwood are there for you, because you can do so without affecting the owner's policy. And that can take away a big stress from the owner of that car that you're using to practice your driving in. Via the link at the moment, there's up to 35% off and a £20 gift card. If you want to insure your own car, I recommend checking out the link to confused.com, because you fill out one quote form and get loads of quotes back from many insurers to compare who's cheapest. And you can change your car on that quote as many times as you like without having to do the whole quote again. So it's a quick and easy way to do one quote and then change the car and compare how much it costs to insure different cars. Useful if you're shopping around for a car. Using the links doesn't cost you anything, but it does support the channel, so thank you very much. Subscribe to get my future videos, and until the next one, cheerio.